Paul Connolly, a financially struggling husband and father, becomes the new night shift zookeeper of a horrifying zoo where the zoo animals are mutated monsters. He needs to ensure that they are fed and do not kill the other animals, going down the rabbit hole to find out what is really going on and what is the ancient monster that is hidden behind the walls of this local zoo. Hi folks, I'm R, your narrator, and welcome to Zoochosis, a very highly anticipated game, which I had the pleasure of playing early. If you have any video or game suggestions, make sure to send them to me on my Twitter or X. The story begins with the protagonist called Paul Connolly, a chemical technology student dropout who didn't even last a year. His rough financial situation has made him apply to any kind of job just to make ends meet and survive, especially having a loving wife called Lily and a child called Gina. Despite the hardship that he faces, he dearly loves his family and goes to extra lengths to support them and make them have the things that he's never had. Equally, his wife is very supportive and goes with him to a job interview as a night shift zookeeper just to support him. The zoo in question is Pine Valley Zoo, which has not been in operation for the past couple of years, off limit to the public. Despite its closure, the zoo is offering $100,000 per year to its new zookeepers, a significant amount of money for the time period, taking place in September of 1991 when the average salary was just around $20,000 per year in USA, and even less for zookeepers. It of course sounds bizarre and too good to be true, but for Paul, who is desperate for money, he wouldn't want to lose any chance of turning his life around.
Before we begin, I want you to put down your scribble.
Believing to be having an interview, Paul is surprised that he is already being pressured into signing a non-disclosure agreement as if he is already having the job without any interview. The NDA form draws some unethical lines, conditions, and terms that are not normal. It underlines that in case of injury or even death, authorities shall not be contacted and that the zoo will not be held liable, which in itself is a big red flag, as if death is expected in this line of duty, being a zookeeping job, and of course they want to not take any accountability in case of death or injury, even though this kind of agreement would not hold in today's court of law. The interviewer is known as Oliver Metzger, who seems really pushy and wants Paul to sign the agreement already. Waiting long enough, a secret line is unlocked, revealing that Paul had been mentally struggling and calls an emergency crisis helpline where he cries to the operator that he hasn't had a job for a year, leading to him losing his house, having no money, not being able to face his family who love him dearly.
Let's not waste time here. You'll be sitting here all night, and I've got more important things to attend to. All right, I didn't want to do this, but it seems I have to. Listen.
Hello, you've reached the emergency helpline. How can we help you?
I got nothing. I've been unemployed for a year. I lost my house. My money is gone. No life. My family. Damn it. I just can't face them. Lily, Gina, they're great. And too good for me. I'm just a stupid failure.
What? Where did you get this?
Chill, Paul. No need to break the nose of a man ready to solve your problems.
Paul is shocked and baffled to how this person got the recording of his phone conversation, revealing what a powerful organization it truly is. If Paul doesn't sign the agreement, an ending can be achieved where we learn about the true nature of the zoo and Oliver, but we're gonna keep that ending for later. Clearly by now, Paul should leave the place immediately, as they know too much about him, about his family, about his daughter needing expensive treatment, and even obtaining a private and confidential phone conversation. This organization truly has done its homework, learning everything there is about Paul. Just an innocent, normal organization wouldn't do so much research, being too pushy, and then offering $100,000 for such a job. Despite all that, Paul is desperate for some money and wants this so badly to be true, having a chance of surviving and helping his family. After giving Paul a portable computer called PDA, which is required to access certain doors and equipment, Oliver suddenly injects Paul with a serum without any warning, which causes him to be sick.
Oh, Oh, you finally awake? Good. Get up. It's time to get to work.
What the hell? What did you do to me?
I took care of your health. Working with animals requires prevention. You wouldn't want to bring some kind of infection home, would you?
Despite all that, Oliver assures him that it's just a cocktail of preventative medication that will protect Paul against any contagions that he might pick up from the animals. Oliver goes on to show Paul around and takes him to the giraffe enclosure, where he teaches him how he needs to feed and monitor the animals. Their blood samples, stool, sound, and temperature need to be taken in order to analyze if they are sick or not, for which they need to be diagnosed accurately and given the right medication to be treated. That's when Oliver locks Paul in the zoo, taking his phone away, telling him that he is in probation and if he proves his skills by tonight, the job will be his in the morning. Going to an office, seeing how his wife is waiting for him outside in the pouring rain, Paul notices a leaflet on how this organization preys on people with financial difficulties, tempting them to take on the job as it's a lot of money, especially if they need money urgently.
Paul, you entered here who knows how long ago. You're not answering calls, I'm worried.
Just as Paul goes on to start work, he hears loud bangs from the reinforced exit door, with Lily being on the other side, urging him to get out, as if seeming very suspicious to why he would be locked in and his phone taken away. Regardless, Paul wants to prove to himself that he's worthy and to take care of his family, saying it's all policy and that he will be back home tomorrow morning, but not before giving her a meat brick. A pre-packaged meat meal, as they have been eating canned food for months now, seeing what good quality the food is in here, which is supposed to be served to the animals. Paul happy that he can take care of his family now, showing his first step to improving their lives by passing her a meat block. He gets on the train and goes to the next animal enclosure, being the gorilla enclosure. The telephone starts ringing, startling Paul, which turns out to be from someone called Linda, who is very worried about her husband, Clarence J. Summers, or simply known as CJ, as he hasn't been responding to her calls. He happens to be a scientist working in the labs of the zoo, which confuses Paul as he doesn't understand why there would be a lab in the zoo.
Please check for me. He should be in the lab.
Is there a lab here?
Oh, I understand. You're new. Then one last request. Look in his locker in the break room. Code 1768.
Moving on to the gorilla's enclosure and feeding them, examining their vitals, Paul goes to the hub under Oliver's instructions to pull the lever for meat supply. When he does so, he's horrified to find a suspended woman hooked to the conveyor belt by her ankles, being placed right above a meat grinder just to be deposited into it, meaning that the meat blocks are human flesh. This woman waking up sees the predicament that she's in, uncontrollably screaming. At the same time, Oliver calls Paul to find out how he's feeling and how he's getting along, first claiming that she was dead, but then saying that she was drugged to be asleep, which doesn't make any difference and Paul must do as he is told, as the animals in the enclosure have developed a taste for human meat. In here, Paul has the choice to drop this woman into the meat grinder or save her, which all lead to different branching endings. Oliver doesn't give Paul much choice as he reveals the serum that he injected Paul with includes a parasite, and this parasite will soon make Paul mutate like the other animals that they have in the enclosure, and the only way that he would cut this parasite out is if he does what they ask of him. It turns out a lab does indeed exist, and the organization is studying an ancient creature labeled as the Mother, which releases several parasites a day, which infiltrate the host, in this case the animals, making them have an urge of wanting to devour meat. Paul promising Oliver that if he does as they ask of him, the organization will take the parasite out of him. Regardless, Paul does what his conscience asks of him after putting the phone down, releasing this woman safely and taking her away from the grinder and putting her in the break room. It all now makes sense and the red flags are clearly justified. This organization shut down for 2 years in order to investigate a hostile and deadly creature, which has put the lives of their animals and employees at risk. The organization also intentionally infects the zookeepers as a measure of control over them. In the meantime, Paul finds journals of a person who used to work here called Anthony Hopwood, who was just like Paul, injected with the serum, having similar experiences to him. Going to the wallabies enclosure, Paul encounters the first mutant, who is a horrifying mutated version of the animals, crawling on the walls and having a large mouth, as if instinctually being violent and craving meat. These mutants crave meat, and if not served meat, they will attack the other animals in the enclosure in order to eat them. In the meantime, Paul notices how sick he is getting, with the veins in his arms enlarging in a scary way, with them vomiting involuntarily and violently. Whether killing this mutated animal using lethal injection shots or treating it, Paul goes back to the hub, to the break room, where he finds the woman that he saved earlier, being awake now, trying to access the labs.
It's okay. I won't touch you. I'm the night zookeeper, Paul Connolly. And you?
Sarah Watkins, investigative journalist for Pine Valley. Thanks for saving me. Too bad I can't return the favor.
What do you mean?
You probably already know that you've been injected with something, some kind of parasite.
You also know something about these parasites. But how do you know?
Sorry, bro. Journalists don't reveal their sources. I can only say that we don't have much time. And the main thing now is to open this stupid door with a biometric lock to gather evidence for the article and expose these bastards. Can you help me?
Sarah Watkins is a local investigative journalist who wanted to investigate the zoo, knowing people are going missing there. Unfortunately for her, she was caught by Oliver and the organization. This organization doesn't seem to have any mercy or humanity. Instead, all they want is to further their research in the name of science. As Paul looks around a little more, he finds the severed hand of none other than CJ, who unfortunately found himself to be part of the meal to the parasite-infected zoo animals, or the mother. But lucky for Paul, he can use his hand as biometrics for opening the door to the underground lab. In here, they find the credentials of Oliver, who actually happens to be a scientist and a certified doctor, and not just a simple employee or interviewer, as he claimed.
That's Doc, my daytime shift colleague.
For a daytime zookeeper, your doc has too many scientific degrees. I bet he's the head honcho here.
In the same place, Paul finds his phone, which happens to have very little battery left. He desperately calls his wife, Lily, to tell her to throw the meat away, as it is not what she thinks it is.
Hello? Paul, is that you? Oh, Paul, thank you. I decided to make roulade. The smell is all over the house. I can't wait for Gina to try it.
You guys haven't eaten it yet?
No, it's still in the oven. Gina is sleeping, and I feel guilty eating such a delicious dish alone.
Thank God. Lily, throw it away immediately.
That's when he promises to see her tomorrow morning and explain everything with the battery dying. Looking at a scientific research whiteboard, it's revealed Oliver, alongside others, dug a hole into the ice cap in the North Pole, where they went as old as 8,000 years ago, finding the mother beneath the ice cap. The mother being this strange creature releasing all these parasites, causing transformation. The organization continued their research on animals, recording all the transformations, when eventually they tested it on human subjects, luring them into this place by lying about how much salary they would give them. This happens to be CJ's work desk, as his photograph with his wife is standing right there, showing how he was involved with these experiments. Opening his locker, finding his PDA, it's confirmed that he was using experimental medication to treat the mutated animals. At the same time, Paul gets a message from Oliver that another person is sent through for the meat supply. This time around, this person is dead, who goes down the grinder to be transformed into meat bricks for the animals. Going to the penguin enclosure, finding more PDA journals from Anthony Hopwood, it's revealed that he was injected with the parasite as well, which led to him slowly turning, first having an insatiable craving for raw meat, and then mutating and losing his mind. To Paul, this seems to be happening imminently to him, as he can visibly see his body deteriorating and transforming while getting really sick. After taking care of the penguins and heading back to the hub, Paul has a chat with Sarah, who together find a PDA journal entry by CJ, who seems to have wanted to destroy the mother and this organization. In his journal, he reveals how the blood of a female parasite needs to be collected and used as poison to kill the mother, as otherwise there's no other way. So it turns out CJ was a good person as of trying to put an end to this madness after fully finding out what they are up to. Maybe that's how he lost his life, transformed into meat bricks, just how Sarah was tied up and suspended. Just before making this poison, Oliver calls Paul and orders him to kill Sarah with an axe, where he has the choice to whether kill her or spare her, being promised that the parasite would be cut out of him. Not believing Oliver and sparing Sarah, and if Paul manages to collect parasites and squeeze them to get their blood, he can formulate poison which would take the mother down. Knowing Oliver is soon to come and kill both of them by feeding them to the mother, Paul has the choice to inject himself with the poison or Sarah. In this ending, having his wife and daughter to get back to, wanting to make up to them and ensure that they have a good, comfortable life, Paul cannot help it but to survive, not abandoning his family. For the sake of them, injecting Sarah with the poison. Feeling sorry and guilty for what he had done, with Sarah equally not being happy, he soon collapses and succumbs to the infection of the parasite when he opens his eyes, seeing the harsh reality that Oliver is there, having served Sarah to the mother already, which means that she consumed the poison to be killed by it. But it all seems to be in vain, as before the poison takes effect, Oliver bids Paul farewell, feeding him to the mother, which pulls him under the shutters with what seem to be multiple alien hands. The ending doesn't show what comes of the mother, if she will perish or not, but according to what was discussed, it will most likely kill her. There are some other variations to this ending which can be achieved if Paul kills Sarah by the axe or throws her into the grinder. So unfortunately, there didn't seem to be a happy ending for Paul either way, and the hopes of having the parasite removed from him was nothing but a delusional dream, as Oliver right off the bat wanted to serve him to the mother. There are more endings to the story, with more enclosures and more worker journals, which I am planning to go over in another video.
Oh, you're doing great. The other subjects have been paralyzed for an hour by this point. You probably noticed that the creatures haven't bothered you. It's all thanks to the parasite. Now we just need to decide whether to remove it from you or not. I'm sorry, Paul. Mother is against it. Seems she's very hungry. Tell Mother to go on TV.
Make sure to stay tuned for more by hitting on the subscribe button and the notification bell. And as always, it's been your host Star. Thanks for being here, and I will see you on the next one. Take care.